Okay guys, I wanted you all to see this part. Now, these are my guidelines on my wig, and I'm almost close to my closure piece, right? So I'm sewing this particular track on, and I have my guidelines. As you can see, I started at my guideline. I don't know where I got off of course at, but if you can see right up in there, I'm not on the guidelines at all, although I did go across. And so there is too much space in between this track and this track, and so I need to put hair in between, and pretty much that's what your guidelines assist you with as well. So because there is too much space in between these two tracks, I am just going to sew another track in between the two of them. So I'd simply make sure that all of the hair is out the way of both tracks so that I don't sew any of the hair down. And then I sew right in between them. So I wanted to film just to show you guys like some of the hiccups and headaches that I have with being a beginner. I mean, I've never totally messed up any of my wigs, but sometimes I do have a hard time getting things the way I want them to be, and I have to improvise. And so I learned over the course of learning that I have to learn to be patient with myself and not be so ready to give up because I get frustrated when I make mistakes. So I just figured out how to manage with basically the knowledge and the skill set that I have. And so because I know that I can sew in between my guidelines, that is what I am going to do, so that I won't have too much space in between those wefts. So as I stated, I just make sure that I have the hair on both of the tracks that are already laid out of my way so that I don't sew the hair into where I'm trying to go. And a lot of times it's not easy. And I won't tell you a lie, in the beginning, I used to get very frustrated and angry with myself because like I never had what they would call practice hair. I was always using like the hair from my stock to basically, you know, create units and practice with. They would be either for myself or for my daughter, my sister, somebody like that. So it was okay if it was not perfect. And so I have to be really careful, and I have to take my time here because I don't want to mess up what I have already completed. Now, this was the start of my single tracks. So perhaps if I would have doubled the tracks, it would not be noticeable. But because I have a single track directly next to a double track, like I can tell that there is too much space in between the two tracks. Like I clearly can see that. So I'm going to try to record simply because I want you guys to know that sometimes mistakes are made, but your mistakes can be corrected as well. Okay, so here goes. And I'm taking my time so that I am careful not to sew down the hairs of either one of the tracks that are already there, as well as maneuver the cap through the machine. So I have to take my time. So I am going to do just that. Take my time, get things going, and get this track laid in between the existing ones. It's gonna be a little challenge because I got slippery hair on on both sides, and a cap that I'm trying to make sure I get it all sewed onto. So I just gotta be patient, guys, because it's my method, and it's also hard to see down in there because I'm sewing in between two tracks. But I most definitely don't want to do any hand stitches, so I just gotta take my time and get her done, because me and hand stitching, we not friends. I have never learned to hand stitch. I don't think that I ever want to hand stitch. But hats off to you ladies that do. You have a unique gift if you can hand stitch a wig. I just never learned to do it. I guess because at the time that I started my hair business first, and then I got interested in creating wigs. I said in the previous video that I'm not a stylist, and so all I did was sell hair. Like, I never did hair. And then I got interested in wig making, and when I wanted to learn wig making, I knew that wigs could be constructed on a sewing machine, so I never wanted to learn how to hand make a wig. And so I learned initially out the gates how to construct wigs on a sewing machine, so that I would never have to construct them by hand. I mean, and actually I think hand sewing might be easier, because if I were hand sewing a wig, I would not have made this mistake, because in hand sewing I could actually see, because there's no hair in my way for me not to see what I'm doing. And guess what, guys? I got some hair in a place that it shouldn't be, so now I gotta go in and get it out. I just use my scissors and pull it from underneath the foot so that it won't get sewn down on the wig cap, because the machine will definitely sew it down. Oh yes, it would sew it down nice and tight for you too. Especially with the zigzag stitch that I got. So before, as I said, I have to make sure that the hair on top is not getting sewn, and I have to make sure that the hair on the bottom is not getting sewn. So it's just a matter of having patience with myself, because I tell you guys, like, I'm not a very patient person, and I would just be getting frustrated and more angry with myself. There are times when I have just sat in here and cried, because I felt like I was defeated. Like, why can't I get this? Why can't I learn this? Like, it's not this hard. Like, why can't I just learn the skill necessary for me to be able to take my business to another level? So I had to learn to be patient. And sometimes, like, I'll still lose patience now, but whenever I lose my patience with myself and I start to feel like I've been slighted, I start to feel like the world is against me, that basically I'm never going to be in a position to win or to capitalize or multiply my business and my earnings, I just take a break. I'll step away from everything, clear my head, say a prayer, think about all the things that I have to be grateful and thankful for. Focus on how far I have come and how much more I need to learn. And then once I have myself calm, I go back to it. But yeah, I do always pray. I always say a prayer and just ask for guidance. Ask God to help me with this machine. Guide me and direct me so that I'm not constantly making these mistakes, and to show me where I'm going wrong so that I can improve and avoid the mistakes. But mistakes happen when you're learning. Like, it's all a part of the learning process. And so I refocus and keep going. And then I'll show you how it came out. So I got it sewed in between the two. And now you can't see one weft as opposed to the other. Because before you could like see straight through it. So, and I always do this. I don't know if you ever like check to make sure that your cap is not shrinking while you're sewing, but I do it like a lot while I'm sewing my wig, so I'll show you. I just take off and then I put it on my head to make sure that I ain't losing any of the elasticity in my cap. And so there you go, it's still stretching, so far so good. I just check it every time to make sure, well, not every time, but I'll check it to make sure that my cap is not shrinking and it still fits my head. So yeah, thank you guys for watching.